Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back to some more bite-sized business advice, and we're going to talk about panic and anxiety today. Doesn't that sound fun? Maybe not. Maybe somebody's a little panicked and anxious just hearing us talk about that. But don't worry, I have an expert with us who is going to help us get past that and go from panic to power in running our business. So if you're a longtime listener, you know on this show we talk about business, of course, but we also talk about the other three things that are so important to running a thriving, successful business: the mindset, body, and spirit. So we're going to wrap all of that together today. And we have a very special guest, Shana Rosenthal. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the show.
You are welcome, Brandon. I'm so happy to be here.
So just for those of you who may be a little confused, doesn't sound like Shana is from here, but she's actually from Florida, originally from the UK. I have to know, before we get serious on this episode, is Florida a different country than the United States?
I definitely think that it has its unique vibe. And from where I'm from, I will tell you, I love it. The little town that I'm in, and the reason why I chose this town is because it is such an eclectic mix of everybody, it seems, from all over. And it's a lot younger. The demographics a lot younger than I think a lot of people feel Florida is in my area anyway. And it's full of very interesting people from all over the place. So this is the only area that I've lived in Florida or in the US. I moved directly here and I haven't moved since. So I love it. And that's a testament to it.
I was going to say, quite the testimonial to that town.
Yeah.
So all right, had to ask that question, get out of the way. Florida's got some stigmas around it, but we love you, Floridians. You are welcome here, of course. So, Shana, let's dive in then. You are a certified hypnotist, which is different than a hypnotherapist. So, real quick, I want to, before we get into from panic to power and anxiety and addressing all of that stuff and running our business, can you just explain the difference for the listener real quick between the two?
It really is in the training. So I'm going to put my hand up and say I'm actually got both. I'm certified in hypnosis and in hypnotherapy. I have a diploma in clinical and medical hypnotherapy that I got in London 15-ish years ago. But since moving to Florida, I'm now governed by their rules and regulations because I didn't take my diploma here. I can't use it. So I'm not licensed as a clinical medical hypnotherapist. Hypnosis here the regulations are that we don't need a license. So here I'm a certified hypnotist. So my clients get the best of both worlds. When we're in sessions, I just pull from all my learnings, all my education, all my experience, and they get a wonderful experience. As far as hypnosis is concerned, that's just one element. It's just one element of hypnotherapy, right? And there are different styles of hypnotherapy as well. Conversational hypnotherapy or hypnosis, it's a state of mind at the end of the day, and it's change that happens fast. And it's helping somebody to change their perspective of what it is that they're dealing with so that they can, live their life without limits and do the things that they want to do. Without going more deep into it, I hope that explains.
That's perfect. I think, that's the perfect explanation of the difference between the two. And I think it's super cool that you're really both, even though the US laws don't recognize you as both, or you can't practice both technically. I think your clients win ultimately. So you, the listener, in the comments, you have to put down there at the end of the episode, do you think Shana hypnotized me during this episode? you be the judge. Okay. So we're going to see where this goes. I don't even know if that's possible, but we're going to do it. You tell me. You're about to say something. What are you going to say?
Well, I was. And actually that answers to a very common misconception about what hypnosis is and what it isn't. So I'm gonna just jump in and say to you, a lot of people believe that it's somebody else taking over the person's mind and have power over them. But actually what it is me helping you to access the power of your own mind.
Interesting. So what I was describing is more like the clown magician hypnosis
Yeah.
on stage.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the stage hypnosis, it's a great, often a very great introduction, so people get to know this weird thing called, hypnosis. But there's no need to be scared of it. We can't do anything we don't want to do. Those people that are on the stage, they're there because they want their 15 minutes of fame. They're buying into the process. It is real. They are not acting, right? Back when I was a student, when I was 18, I went to my first stage hypnosis show, and one of my friends got called up onto the stage. It was the most hilarious thing I've ever seen, and we still rib him about it today. It was hilarious. So obviously, when you're going into a therapeutic session, the goals are much different. And when you understand what hypnosis is and what it is, I can already tell that you're very good at hypnosis. I know that already just by our brief conversation so far. So you'd be a wonderful hypnosis subject if you so choose. But what I will tell you is that most of us are very good at hypnosis. We go in and out of hypnosis multiple times a day. We just don't realize it. And if I were to give you an insight and let you know that, just to help you to understand, if you were to change the word hypnosis to focus, now you understand that maybe there are times where you have been deeply focused on something, even though there are distractions going on around you. But in that moment, it didn't matter, right? Because you were so focused on what you were doing. You could hear it, but it's irrelevant at the time. You're so focused. And then you decide to finish what you were working on or whatever, and then you go and you deal with the noise, the distraction. But that was on your terms, right? Mm-hmm. You had to get into that state for you to be able to complete the task, right? That's a hypnotic state of mind that you decided to go into to complete that task. And so really, and another example, if you're interested, I can tell you, are you a driver? Do you drive?
Yes.
You ever been driving on the highway and you're so deep in thought that you missed your exit?
Yep.
That's called highway hypnosis. You are able to be so deep in thought that you weren't realizing you were driving, but you were driving and responding to all the other drivers. And then you realize, oops, I've missed my exit. Or you've arrived home and you don't remember the drive home. That's that state of mind that we access in our sessions. I'm just there to guide you to then access it and make the changes that we've already agreed that you want to make. Make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that analogy too, because we've all done that, first of all. Yeah. So I think everybody can relate to that. Mm-hmm. I'm also curious, the topic of today's conversation is panic to power, anxiety. So let me ask you this, from my limited knowledge of what hypnosis truly is a state of anxiety also then a state of hypnosis, just focused on the quote unquote wrong things? Like, how would you unpack what anxiety really is before we then go about getting out of it?
Brandon, you've hit the nail on the head.
Okay, we're done with this episode. Thank you for listening. This is fantastic.
I often say to potential clients that contact me, because I have a conversation with every single one before I agree to take them on as a client, because I need to make sure that they're really in the right mindset to make these changes. And I say to them, my job is actually to unhypnotize you out of your anxiety, because you're in this mindset that you're telling me you don't want to be in. But that's hypnosis. You've somehow hypnotized yourself into behaving that way, or to responding to, let's call them triggers, or your life, or whatever it is, in a certain way. So our job really is not to hypnotize you, but to unhypnotize you.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I'm glad you put it that way, because when we're running a business and there's all these stressors going on, it could be finances, employees, schedules, customers, whatever it is. There's a million things going on. Running a business is hard. Very easy to get into a state of anxiety. So talk to me about recognizing that, and then I want to address some things we can do to get out of it. But how do we even go about recognizing that we are in this anxious and panic state and pausing?
Right. So the power is in the pause. The power is in the pause because, look, your brain likes to do things in a habit formation, right? Your brain is all about conserving energy. So, and that's how habits actually keep us safe. Because if we're conserving energy at the brain level, we're in a habit. So it learns a behavior, it gets a reward, whether it's good for us or not. It believes it's good for us. And it feels good to respond in that way, in that moment. And so the brain kind of decides, or the part of the brain, that's the subconscious I'm talking about, decides, okay, well, if I keep doing this repeatedly, then I'm going to be okay. And the end of the behavior is the anxiety, right? The way that we respond to it in our own personal way. And so if it becomes a subconscious behavior, a subconscious response to either the way that we're thinking or our external world, what's happening to us at that moment in time, it automatically then responds in that way over and over again, and a habit is formed. So if we can put, we call it a pattern interrupt in that response, and then teach it another way to respond instead, that's the work that I do with people. So the first thing is to recognize it's happening, recognize the very subtle nuances that go on either in your mind or in your body. Very often it's a physical response that alerts us that something doesn't feel right, whether it's a heart racing, the palpitations that happen in the heart, or the breathing constricts and starts getting shallower and quicker. Oftentimes we get upset stomachs, we get a pressure in our head, our shoulders, tense up. They're very subtle, and then it starts to get bigger and more loud, right? If we can start to recognize these very subtle changes at the beginning before it gets bigger, put a pattern interrupt in there, and then a plan of what we're going to do next, and make that the habit, do it a few times over a few days, all of a sudden now we're responding very differently, and the anxiety starts to shrink.
That's interesting. And I'm curious too, is it a one size fits all kind of fix? And what I mean by that is, let's say the same business owner has some sort of a trigger around money. Maybe they're just never good with money. So they have an opportunity where a lot of money is going to come in very quickly. They get tense about it. Let's say that same person also has a fear of public speaking, and they need to get on stage and talk to people. Maybe it's employees, maybe it's just public speaking, maybe it's podcast like this. Is that the same session or series of sessions with you, or are those two different problems that you have to tackle separately? I'm just curious how the whole process works.
Right. So the first thing I'm going to say is each client that I take on, and I've done this forever, is I help them differently. Even if they were, if I had 10 people who were struggling with public speaking, each session would look very different, right? Depending on them, their personality, how I analyze what they need and what they're telling me, I respond back and help them in different ways, which is how I can help people as fast as I do, because I'm not just forcing them to do the same thing that everybody else is doing. Okay. So that's the first kind of level. Also, if I'm helping one person with multiple issues, multiple ways that the anxiety show up, then we deal with each one, but they're all connected. So it's almost like we're creating a chain link of tools that will help them in each situation independently, but because they're all connected, it isn't difficult for these things to be effective because they are in the driving seat. So even though I'm showing them some things that will help them in those scenarios, we're dealing with the anxiety, which is the big picture underneath, and it makes everything else collapse.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is obviously a very powerful approach to
Mm-hmm.
go from panic to power. I like that. I like the title. So I'm curious then, you get really good results and quickly. I think is
Yeah.
what shocked me before we started recording. You said about 8 weeks is your average duration of working with somebody. So tell me the overview of what that 8 weeks looks like for somebody. If let's say somebody listening is experiencing anxiety, it's holding them back in growing their business, it's holding them back in hiring employees or delegating, whatever it is. They work with you for 8 weeks. What's possible on the other side of 8 weeks? Where do people usually end up in growing their business or just improving their lives after going through this work?
Everybody's so different, right? But and the conversation I seem to have with each of my clients at the end is they would say to me, if you'd have told me what I'm noticing now at the beginning, I wouldn't have worked with you because I wouldn't have believed it, and I would have thought that you were just trying to convince me to work with you because it's that huge. So I kind of want to hold back like I normally do and say it's going to be, everything that you want it to be, even though I will say I don't guarantee because, I can't guarantee how each person is going to respond. But I do know that they're going to feel so much better, so much more in control of themselves. And really the sky is the limit what they do with it after. And every other facet of their life has the possibility to improve as well. So I might be working with someone to help them improve the confidence and the anxiety around their facets around their professional life, but that it isn't contained in that. It sort of grows into their personal life as well, and their relationships with the people they care about. And some people don't even tell their significant others that they're doing this kind of work. They keep it to themselves. And in each scenario, they start getting feedback from their significant others, like, what is going on with you, in a positive way. And I get to hear about this. They're like, you're not going to believe this, but so-and-so, who, I hardly ever spend time with, has even noticed a shift in me. And then, of course, we're talking about the physical benefit as well. In fact, I posted on Facebook, I think it was last week, a testimonial letter that I got from a client of mine who went to have his blood pressure checked, and it was down so significantly in 4 weeks. So he went to the doctor. The doctor told him he had this issue with his blood pressure and he's got to get something. And he's in a high level position. He's a high level executive and a lot of stress. And I think he went back 4 weeks later, and it was, I can't remember the numbers, but it was very significant. And I uploaded that letter on Facebook just to it's another piece of proof. I call it side effect of hypnosis. There aren't any negative side effects. I'm just always trying to kind of give proof as to, all the other intricate ways people see a difference.
Yeah, it's exactly why this show exists the way it does, and we have conversations like this, because you can't just focus. That's actually a perfect example. He focused just on business and didn't focus on his health, on his mind, body, spirit. When you lack one or any of those four things, everything else crumbles. You can't have a thriving business, whether you're an executive and it's your career, or you're an entrepreneur and it's your company. So Shana, this has been an amazing episode, and I feel like we just scratched the surface. I mean, we didn't even unpack the side effects of health and going down that route. Yeah. This is absolutely amazing. So I put your Facebook group actually on the screen. It'll be in the show notes along with your website. If you want to go join that group, you can learn a little bit more about hypnosis and how it can transform your life. So Shana, thank you again for coming and sharing your wisdom on this show.
You are welcome, and thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Well, for those of you listening, watching, wherever you are, thank you. We love having you. We do the show for you. Remember, there's more than just business that you have to be aware of, that you have to master, honestly, if you want to grow a thriving business and have a good life that doesn't kill you in the meantime. So make sure you keep listening, subscribe wherever you are, so we can keep bringing these episodes to you every single day of the week. We'll see you on the next episode of Harmonious at Lunch.